Ladies and gentlemen, are you a PC gamer? Because if you are, there is potentially fantastic news on the horizon. Chip manufacturer ARM are rumoured to be entering the discrete GPU market to produce graphics card solutions for PC gamers, and also AI and data center as well, but let's just be honest, that's probably not so interesting for most of us. Boy, do I have a lot of thoughts regarding this, and we're going to get into all of this, plus more, after this very quick message from the sponsor of the video. If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by WhoKeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as Home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out WhoKeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices. So before we go into my thoughts regarding this, let's look at the rumour itself, and this originates from the website Globes. However, I want to give courtesy credit to WCCF Tech, where I spotted this initially. I'm going to read the quote. UK chip giant ARM is developing graphics processing units in Israel that compete with Nvidia and Intel. Sources familiar with the matter have told Globes. ARM is estimated to be employing around 100 chip and software development engineers in its global graphics processing group. At this stage, ARM is reportedly engaged in graphics processing for the video game market, and at the same time, as with the case with Nvidia, their technology could be also used for AI processing. That's if ARM decides to fully enter the market. Now, of course, if and when are very big words. So obviously this may not happen because the, well, let's say difficulties in creating a competitive product are numerous. Now, obviously the architecture itself, ARM already has Mali, and they have a lot of experience producing chips. So it's not like, you know, they were previously creating pizzas or something like that and then going into an entirely different market. So in terms of experience, they certainly have some to draw from. However, there are tons of challenges. Now, obviously, for one, you can't just take a chip essentially that is designed for like a cell phone and then be like, well, we're just going to add more X and Y and then it's going to work great for a desktop. So there is a lot of challenges outside of the obvious scaling up of stuff and obviously much higher power consumption figures. But outside of the changes in architecture which are going to be needed to accommodate PC gaming workloads, the actual software engineering is a really big deal. Now, software engineering for GPUs, if you think about it just logically for just a second, and I'm going to be simplifying this and kind of putting them into a few different silos. So the first is that drivers need to go brrr. In other words, if you put a graphics card into your PC, obviously it has drivers which are necessary for the game and operating system to work. And you need those drivers to, well, be updated quite regularly so that games don't crash, there aren't problems, especially with legacy titles. And this is something that Intel certainly ran into problems with their Alchemist line of graphics cards. New games that were using DirectX 12 and Vulkan, I think Vulkan, were okay-ish in most circumstances. There were some standouts, that's certainly one. But DirectX 9, oh boy, that was fun. To give Intel a lot of credit, they have improved things immeasurably since launch, and things have just gotten a lot better in terms of not only legacy support, but also new games as well. However, outside of just the drivers, there is a ton of other things that need to be taken into consideration. The software stack isn't just a simple case of drivers need to make the game work, but gamers also expect a ton of new features. Like, look at AMD, look at Intel, as well as Nvidia. Outside of the obvious stuff, like, for example, I don't know, DLSS, or XCSS, or FSR, or any of that stuff, you also have features like being able to capture the screen, like being able to potentially stream, performance monitoring software, overclocking, tweaking, being able to do all of this stuff. Those are certainly challenges, but you also have, of course, while working with software development teams that work at these studios. So, for example, Nvidia, of course, will work with the likes of Ubisoft, it will work with the likes of Capcom, and so on and so forth, so that not only do their drivers and their hardware work as harmoniously as possible, but they also can incorporate whatever technologies. And I'm sure you have seen, you know, AMD sponsored titles or Nvidia sponsored titles or what have you before. And this also, of course, is the same for CPUs with Intel or AMD. So while I am simplifying things here for the sake of this video, you guys get the idea. It's a lot of work, and it's one of the what's the term? The great filters with, the theories of why you can't have, there's not so many alien civilizations. And one of the great filters when it comes to GPUs isn't just the IPs and, the making sure you don't, have massive copyright infringement on stuff, which is a topic in and of itself that I'm not even going to touch with a barge pole in this video. But you also have the software. And it's going to be very interesting to see how ARM manages to deal with this. However, to reiterate, they have the resources and they have the ability to hire in some of the best talent in the industry. It will be extremely interesting, not just for PC gaming, because if you think about this quite logically, just for a second, even if we ignore the data center stuff, the potential here for ARM is really quite big. I mean, obviously you have the handheld market, like Steam Decks or what have you, but also games consoles. Yes, I think it's very, very, very likely the PlayStation 6 is going to be sticking with AMD. And anyway, ARM probably wouldn't have their chips available by the time the PS6 releases, let's just be honest. But PS7? What about the next Nintendo console? Those are just examples. I'm not leaking anything. I'm just spitballing here. Basically, those same architectures can be used for a ton of different solutions. And it's going to be highly interesting to see how all of this shapes up, especially because obviously the kind of relationship that Nvidia and ARM already has. So I'm going to be watching this situation unfold with some popcorn, I tell ya. And I just want to give you guys a very quick update for Arrow Lake. So this is going to be just a quick one regarding the clock frequencies, and this is courtesy of Jkin on Twitter. Essentially, they have leaked some updated clock frequencies for engineering qualification samples. So I'm just going to run over these real quick. The QS, again, qualification sample with 1 to 2 performance cores enabled is 5.7, a 5.4 with all of the cores, 4.6 with all of the E cores, and that's with the memory running at 6400. ES2 is 4.7, 4.5, respective of 1 to 2 or all, and 3.9 for all E. They do state that they're going to be posting all of the clocks for the B0 lineup, basically coming very soon. And obviously the 285K is a 24-core, 24-thread part, that 8/16. These clock frequencies, by the way, match some leaks I put out, I think it was early July-ish, for memory. And basically that's what I was told, along with a 10 to 40% improvement in multi-thread performance relative to what we had, with the older generations. However, the problem is when you're dealing with performance increases, it's the obvious question is over which benchmarks. And because obviously most of the time those benchmarks are not, what are they basically? Is it Cinebench? Is it SpecView? Is it SpecView? If so, is it integer? What basically, what is it? And again, I was told 10 to 40%. So we'll just wait and see on this. It's going to be highly interesting to see how Arrow Lake, as well as the X3D variants of Zen 5 actually face off against the vanilla Zen 5. Obviously, the rumor is that Zen 5 is going to get updated with the X3D variant around the time that Arrow Lake launches. Unfortunately, I still can't get an exact release date. We know that Arrow Lake, of course, is going to be coming later this year, and obviously Intel themselves have said that there's no changes to any of the scheduling regarding Arrow Lake, so I'll be very interested to see how all of this plays out. At the moment, the sales of Zen 5 have not been particularly good. While some of that I think can be levered at the architecture itself. And obviously the gaming performance has not been particularly great. It does really seem that the Ryzen 9000 series is certainly getting hit with bandwidth limitations on the IOD. And I do think that the Turing server parts are going to be pretty impressive. And obviously the workloads, just that the AMD seems to have optimized Zen 5.4, are certainly, well, more server-ish in their workloads. And there is also the whole thing regarding inter-core latencies as well that's been tested by a couple of different places. But you know what? Honestly, while I do think that is somewhat impactful on the sales, I also think that people are just kind of waiting. There have been some big price cuts. I don't know if they're still in place for Zen 4. The X3D Zen 4s in particular got absolutely, like, just crazy pricing for a little bit. AM4 obviously is still quite popular, and again, if you have a 5800 X3D, do you really need to upgrade to a 7800 series or like a 9000 series? Yes, I'm not gonna lie, you will get higher frame rates, of course, everyone knows that, but is it that much better? Is it going to give you that much more performance? I guess it's going to depend on your GPU, but then that comes down to, if you have a limited budget, would you rather, like, let's say you've got a 3080 now, would you rather, like, put more money towards an RTX 50 GPU, where you know they're going to be expensive, like, whether they release this year, next year, whenever, we know they're going to be more expensive, so it's like, would you rather, if you have to upgrade your platform, you have to upgrade your memory, you have to upgrade the CPU, even if you can sell the old parts and, you know, kind of get like a 33 or 50% of the money recuperated, is it really worth it when you could just throw that cash towards a better GPU? For example, if it's the case of like, well, you could go from a 5070 to a 5080 or even a 5090, is that going to get you worse performance than kind of like having a 5070 and a, I don't know, a 9800 X3D or something like that, versus having your 5800 X3D with optimized memory and an RTX 5070? Guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling for this particular video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, well, you know what to do. It's YouTube. Leave a like and obviously subscribe if you're not already. I'll see you guys soon. Take care of yourselves. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.